You've been meditating, reading spiritual books, and trying to be more mindful, but something feels off. It's like you're running on a treadmill, lots of effort, but you're not getting anywhere. Sound familiar? You're not alone. Millions of people feel stuck in their spiritual growth, and it's not your fault. There are hidden traps that most of us fall into without even realizing it. Today, we're going to shine a light on the 3 biggest habits that are secretly sabotaging your spiritual progress. But don't worry, we're not just going to point out the problems. I'll show you exactly how to break free from these habits and supercharge your spiritual growth. Get ready to unlock your true potential and experience the peace, joy, and fulfillment you've been searching for. Let's talk about spiritual growth for a moment. What does it really mean? At its core, spiritual growth is about becoming more aware of who you truly are beyond your thoughts and emotions. It's about connecting with something bigger than yourself and finding deeper meaning in life. This journey can bring you more peace, love, and happiness. It can help you deal with life's challenges better and make you feel more alive and connected to everything around you. But here's the thing. Spiritual growth isn't always easy. It's not like following a simple recipe where you just mix the right ingredients and voila, you're enlightened. No, it's more like tending a garden. It takes time, patience, and consistent care. And just like a garden can have weeds that choke out the flowers, our spiritual growth can have habits that hold us back. That's why it's so important to know what these habits are. Once you can spot them, you can start to change them. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to look at 3 common habits that might be slowing down your spiritual growth. But don't worry, for each habit, I'll give you practical ways to overcome it. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear roadmap to jumpstart your spiritual journey and start seeing real progress. Let's dive into the first habit that might be holding you back, the comparison trap. This is when you constantly measure your spiritual progress against others. Maybe you see someone who seems so peaceful and enlightened, and you think, why can't I be like that? Or you hear about someone's profound spiritual experience and feel like you're doing something wrong because you haven't had the same thing happen to you. This habit is so common because it's human nature to compare ourselves to others. We do it in our jobs, our relationships, and yes, even in our spiritual lives. But here's the problem. Spiritual growth is deeply personal. Your journey is unique to you, with its own timeline and path. Let me give you an example. Imagine 2 people learning to play the piano. One might learn quickly and be playing complex pieces in no time. The other might struggle with the basics for months. Does that mean the slower learner is failing? Of course not. They're just on a different path. The same is true for spiritual growth. When you fall into the comparison trap, you're not seeing the whole picture. You don't know what challenges that enlightened person has faced, or how long they've been on their journey. Plus, everyone expresses their spirituality differently. What looks like progress to one person might not be meaningful to another. The comparison trap can make you feel discouraged and inadequate. You might think, I've been meditating for months, but I still get angry sometimes. I must be doing something wrong. But those thoughts only create more negativity and actually hinder your growth. Remember, spiritual growth isn't a competition. It's not about reaching some final destination where you're perfectly zen all the time. It's about your own personal journey of self-discovery and connection with something greater than yourself. So how do we break free from this habit? The first step is awareness. Start noticing when you're comparing yourself to others. Maybe you feel a twinge of envy when someone talks about their meditation practice, or you feel down on yourself after scrolling through spiritual posts on social media. These are clues that you've fallen into the comparison trap. Once you're aware of it, try to shift your perspective. Instead of feeling bad that you're not where someone else is, get curious about your own journey. Ask yourself, what have I learned recently? How have I grown? What challenges have I overcome? Celebrate your own progress, no matter how small it might seem. Another helpful practice is to keep a spiritual journal. Write down your experiences, insights, and yes, even your struggles. Over time, you'll be able to look back and see how far you've come. This can be incredibly encouraging when you're feeling stuck. It's also important to remember that struggles and setbacks are part of the journey. They're not signs of failure. They're opportunities for growth. Every time you face a challenge and work through it, you're building spiritual strength and resilience. Try this exercise. The next time you catch yourself comparing your spiritual journey to someone else's, take a deep breath and say to yourself, "My path is my own. I'm exactly where I need to be right now." Then, think of one thing you're grateful for in your own spiritual journey. Maybe it's a moment of peace you experienced, a new insight you gained, or even just the fact that you're committed to growing. Breaking the comparison habit takes time and practice. Be patient with yourself. Remember, the very act of noticing this habit and trying to change it is a form of spiritual growth. You're becoming more self-aware and compassionate towards yourself, and that's a beautiful thing. As you work on letting go of comparisons, you might find that you start to feel more peaceful and content. You'll be able to appreciate your own journey more fully, and you might even find joy in seeing others grow without feeling like it diminishes your own progress. This is a sign that you're truly embracing the personal nature of spiritual growth. So, let's make a pact right now. Let's agree to stop comparing our spiritual journeys to others. Instead, let's focus on our own paths, celebrate our own progress, and trust that we're exactly where we need to be. Your spiritual journey is as unique as you are, and that's something to be cherished, not compared. Now that we've identified the comparison trap, let's talk about how to break free from it for good. The key is to shift your focus from others back to yourself. This isn't about being selfish, it's about honoring your own unique spiritual journey. Start by practicing self-compassion. When you notice you're comparing yourself to others, pause and take a deep breath. Remind yourself that everyone's path is different. It's okay to be exactly where you are right now. Try saying to yourself, "I'm doing the best I can," and that's enough. Next, turn your attention to your own growth. Instead of looking at what others are doing, ask yourself, what's one small step I can take today to nurture my spiritual life? Maybe it's spending 5 minutes in quiet reflection, or doing one kind deed for someone else. These small actions add up over time and can make a big difference in your spiritual growth. It's also helpful to limit your exposure to things that trigger comparisons. If scrolling through spiritual Instagram accounts leaves you feeling inadequate, it might be time for a social media break. Instead, spend that time connecting with your own inner wisdom through meditation or journaling. Remember, your spiritual journey is not about reaching a destination. It's about the process of growth and self-discovery. Embrace where you are right now, with all its imperfections and challenges. Each experience, even the difficult ones, is an opportunity for growth. Try this simple daily practice. At the end of each day, write down one thing you're grateful for in your spiritual journey. It could be a moment of peace you experienced, an insight you gained, or even just the fact that you're committed to growing. Over time, you'll build a beautiful record of your own unique spiritual path. Breaking the comparison habit takes time and patience. Be kind to yourself as you work on it. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small it might seem. Remember, the very act of noticing this habit and working to change it is a form of spiritual growth. You're becoming more self-aware and compassionate towards yourself, and that's a beautiful thing. Let's move on to the second habit that might be holding back your spiritual growth, the perfection illusion. This is the belief that to be spiritually advanced, you need to be perfect all the time. You might think that if you were really growing spiritually, you'd never get angry, you'd always be calm and serene, and you'd have all the answers. This habit is sneaky because it often disguises itself as a noble goal. After all, isn't spiritual growth about becoming a better person? Yes, but the perfection illusion takes this to an extreme. It sets an impossible standard that no human can live up to. Here's an example of how this might show up in your life. Let's say you've been practicing meditation regularly. One day, you get into an argument with a family member and lose your temper. Instead of seeing this as a normal human moment, you beat yourself up about it. You think, if I were really spiritual, I wouldn't have gotten angry. I must be doing something wrong. The perfection illusion can also make you afraid to try new things or take risks in your spiritual practice. You might avoid joining a meditation group because you're worried you won't do it right. Or you might hesitate to share your spiritual insights with others because you fear they're not profound enough. This habit is like trying to climb a mountain while carrying a heavy backpack full of unrealistic expectations. It slows you down and makes the journey much harder than it needs to be. The truth is, spiritual growth isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming more aware, more compassionate, and more authentic. And that includes embracing your imperfections. Think about it this way. If you were already perfect, what would be the point of a spiritual journey? The whole purpose of growth is to learn, evolve, and expand. And that process necessarily involves making mistakes, facing challenges, and sometimes falling short of your ideals. In fact, many spiritual teachers say that our imperfections and struggles are not obstacles to spiritual growth. They're the very things that make growth possible. It's through facing our fears, working with our difficult emotions, and learning from our mistakes that we truly grow. So how do we break free from the perfection illusion? The first step is to recognize it when it shows up. Notice when you're being hard on yourself for not meeting an impossible standard. Are you expecting yourself to never feel negative emotions? To always know the right thing to do? To have a perfectly calm mind every time you meditate? These are signs that the perfection illusion is at work. Once you've spotted it, the next step is to challenge these unrealistic expectations. Remind yourself that being human means being imperfect. Even the most enlightened spiritual teachers have had moments of doubt, anger, or confusion. It's not about eliminating these experiences. It's about how we respond to them. Try this. The next time you catch yourself in the perfection illusion, take a moment to practice self-compassion. Put your hand on your heart and say to yourself, "It's okay to be imperfect. I'm human and I'm learning." This simple act can help shift you out of self-judgment and back into a growth mindset. Another powerful practice is to reframe your mistakes as learning opportunities. Instead of beating yourself up when you fall short of your ideals, ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? How can this help me grow? This approach turns every challenge into a chance for spiritual development. It's also helpful to remember that spiritual growth often happens in small, quiet moments. It's not always about having dramatic revelations or achieving states of perfect bliss. Sometimes it's about being a little more patient in a frustrating situation or showing kindness to someone when it's not easy. These small acts are just as valuable as any grand spiritual experience. As you work on letting go of the perfection illusion, you might find that your spiritual practice becomes more joyful and relaxed. You'll be able to approach your growth with curiosity and openness rather than rigid expectations. This doesn't mean you stop striving to be better. It just means you do so with compassion and understanding for your human nature. Remember, the goal of spiritual growth isn't to reach some final state of perfection. It's to become more fully yourself, with all your unique qualities and quirks. It's about growing in love, awareness, and connection. And that includes loving and accepting yourself just as you are, while still being open to growth and change. So let's make a commitment to embrace our imperfections as part of our spiritual journey. Let's celebrate our progress, learn from our challenges, and approach our growth with curiosity and compassion. After all, it's our humanity, with all its messy, imperfect beauty, that makes the spiritual journey so rich and meaningful. Now that we've identified the perfection illusion, let's talk about how to overcome it and create a healthier approach to your spiritual growth. The key is to shift from a perfection-oriented mindset to a growth-oriented mindset. Start by practicing self-acceptance. This doesn't mean you stop trying to grow or improve. It means you accept yourself as you are right now, while still being open to change and development. Try this daily affirmation: I accept myself fully, just as I am. I'm growing and learning every day. Next, redefine what progress looks like. Instead of expecting yourself to be perfectly calm or wise all the time, look for small signs of growth. Did you catch yourself before reacting negatively to a situation? Did you show compassion to someone when it wasn't easy? These are real signs of spiritual progress, even if they seem small. It's also important to embrace your challenges as part of your journey. When you face a difficulty or make a mistake, instead of seeing it as a failure, see it as a chance to learn and grow. Ask yourself, what can this situation teach me? How can I use this to become more aware or compassionate? Try keeping a growth journal. At the end of each day, write down one thing you learned or one way you grew, no matter how small. Over time, you'll see a beautiful record of your progress, imperfections, and all. Remember, spiritual growth isn't about reaching a final destination of perfection. It's about the journey of becoming more aware, more compassionate, and more authentically yourself. And that journey includes all of your experiences, the ups and the downs, the successes and the struggles. Here's a powerful practice to help you overcome the perfection illusion. Create a compassion pause. Whenever you notice you're being hard on yourself for not being spiritual enough, pause and take 3 deep breaths. With each breath, say to yourself, I am human. I am learning. I am growing. This simple practice can help shift you out of self-judgment and back into a mindset of growth and self-compassion. It's also helpful to connect with others on a spiritual path. When we share our experiences with others, we often find that they've faced similar challenges. This can help us feel less alone and more accepting of our own journey, imperfections, and all. As you work on overcoming the perfection illusion, you might find that your spiritual practice becomes more joyful and authentic. You'll be able to approach your growth with curiosity and openness rather than rigid expectations. This doesn't mean you stop striving to be better. It just means you do so with compassion and understanding for your human nature. Remember, true spiritual growth isn't about becoming some idealized version of yourself. It's about becoming more fully and authentically who you really are. It's about growing in love, awareness, and connection. And that includes loving and accepting yourself, imperfections, and all. So let's make a commitment to embrace our whole selves as part of our spiritual journey. Let's celebrate our progress, learn from our challenges, and approach our growth with curiosity and compassion. After all, it's our humanity, with all its beautiful complexity, that makes the spiritual journey so rich and meaningful. In our fast-paced world, we're used to getting things quickly. Fast food, same-day delivery, instant messages, it's all at our fingertips. But when it comes to spiritual growth, this habit of wanting everything now can actually hold us back. Let's talk about the third habit that might be slowing down your spiritual progress, the instant gratification trap. This habit shows up when we expect our spiritual practices to give us immediate, dramatic results. Maybe you've tried meditation and felt frustrated because your mind didn't become perfectly calm after a few sessions. Or perhaps you've read spiritual books, expecting to feel enlightened right away, only to be disappointed when you didn't experience a sudden transformation. The instant gratification trap can make us jump from one spiritual practice to another, always looking for the next big breakthrough. It's like planting a seed and then digging it up every day to see if it's grown yet. This impatience can actually prevent us from experiencing the deep, lasting changes that come with consistent spiritual practice. Here's an example of how this might look in real life. Let's say you start a daily meditation practice. After a week, you're not feeling as blissful or enlightened as you expected. Instead of sticking with it, you decide meditation doesn't work for you and move on to trying crystals or energy healing. While exploring different practices can be valuable, constantly switching because you're not seeing instant results can keep you stuck in a cycle of shallow experiences. The truth is, spiritual growth is more like tending a garden than microwaving a meal. It takes time, patience, and consistent care. Just like a plant needs time to put down roots before it can bloom, our spiritual practices often work on deep levels that we can't always see right away. Think about it this way. Have you ever learned a new skill, like playing an instrument or speaking a new language? At first, progress might seem slow and frustrating, but if you stick with it, over time you start to see real improvement. Spiritual growth works in a similar way. The changes might be subtle at first, but they build up over time into profound transformations. So how do we break free from the instant gratification trap? The first step is to recognize it when it shows up. Notice when you're feeling impatient with your spiritual progress or tempted to give up on a practice because you're not seeing immediate results. These are signs that you might be caught in the instant gratification trap. Once you've spotted it, the next step is to shift your perspective. Instead of focusing on dramatic breakthroughs, start appreciating the small, everyday moments of growth. Did you catch yourself being more patient in a frustrating situation? Did you feel a moment of peace during your meditation, even if it was brief? These are real signs of progress, even if they don't feel earth-shattering. Try this. Start keeping a small wins journal. Each day, write down one tiny way you noticed growth or change, no matter how small. Over time, you'll start to see how these small moments add up to significant progress. Another powerful practice is to focus on the process rather than the outcome. Instead of meditating to achieve a particular state of mind, meditate to simply be present with whatever arises. Instead of reading spiritual books to gain enlightenment, read them to explore and learn. When we let go of our attachment to specific results, we often find that growth happens naturally and organically. It's also helpful to remember that setbacks and plateaus are normal parts of any growth process. Just like physical exercise, spiritual growth often happens in cycles. There might be periods of rapid change followed by times when progress seems slow. These quieter times are often when deep integration is happening, even if we can't see it on the surface. As you work on breaking free from the instant gratification trap, you might find that your spiritual practice becomes more enjoyable and sustainable. You'll be able to appreciate the journey itself, rather than always striving for the next big breakthrough. This doesn't mean you stop having goals or aspirations. It just means you learn to enjoy the process of growth itself. Remember, spiritual growth isn't about reaching a final destination. It's about continually expanding your awareness, deepening your compassion, and living more fully in each moment. Every step on this path, no matter how small, is valuable and meaningful. Now that we've identified the instant gratification trap, let's talk about how to overcome it and cultivate a more patient, sustainable approach to spiritual growth. The key is to shift from a results-oriented mindset to a process-oriented mindset. Start by setting realistic expectations. Understand that spiritual growth is a lifelong journey, not a quick fix. Just like a tree takes years to reach its full height, our spiritual development unfolds over time. Remind yourself that every small step forward is progress, even if it doesn't feel dramatic. Next, focus on consistency rather than intensity. Instead of looking for mind-blowing experiences, aim to establish regular, sustainable spiritual practices. Maybe it's meditating for 10 minutes each day, or taking a mindful walk in nature once a week. These consistent habits, over time, can lead to profound changes. It's also important to cultivate patience and trust in the process. When you feel impatient or discouraged, remind yourself that growth is happening, even if you can't always see it. Just like a planted seed grows underground before it sprouts, much of our spiritual growth happens beneath the surface of our awareness. Try this practice. Create a patience pause. Whenever you notice yourself feeling frustrated with your spiritual progress, pause and take 3 deep breaths. With each breath, say to yourself, I trust the process. Growth is happening. I am patient with my journey. This simple practice can help shift you out of impatience and back into a mindset of trust and acceptance. Another helpful approach is to find joy in the practice itself, rather than focusing solely on the results. When you meditate, for example, enjoy the act of sitting quietly and breathing. When you read spiritual texts, savor the wisdom and beauty of the words. When we learn to enjoy the journey itself, we're less likely to get caught up in the need for instant results. It's also valuable to connect with others who are on a spiritual path. Sharing experiences with like-minded people can help you gain perspective on your own journey. You might find that others have faced similar challenges with patience and persistence, which can be encouraging and inspiring. As you work on overcoming the instant gratification trap, you might find that your spiritual practice becomes more relaxed and enjoyable. You'll be able to approach your growth with curiosity and openness, rather than urgency and pressure. This doesn't mean you stop striving for growth. It just means you do so with patience and trust in the process. Remember, true spiritual growth isn't about reaching a final destination or achieving a particular state. It's about continually expanding your awareness, deepening your compassion, and living more fully in each moment. Every step on this path, no matter how small or slow it might seem, is valuable and meaningful. So let's make a commitment to embrace the journey of spiritual growth with all its twists and turns. Let's celebrate our progress, learn from our challenges, and approach our growth with patience and trust. After all, it's the journey itself, with all its rich experiences and lessons, that makes spiritual growth so rewarding and transformative. As we wrap up our exploration of these 3 habits that might be holding back your spiritual growth, let's take a moment to bring it all together. We've talked about the comparison trap, the perfection illusion, and the instant gratification trap. Each of these habits can slow down our spiritual progress, but with awareness and practice, we can overcome them. Remember, spiritual growth is a deeply personal journey. It's not about comparing yourself to others or trying to reach some perfect ideal. It's about becoming more fully yourself, more aware, more compassionate, and more connected to the world around you. Avoid comparing your spiritual journey to others. Your path is unique, and you're exactly where you need to be right now. Let go of the need for perfection. Embrace your humanity with all its messy, beautiful imperfections. It's through our challenges and mistakes that we often grow the most. Be patient with your progress. Spiritual growth happens gradually, often in small, quiet moments. Trust the process and enjoy the journey. As you move forward on your spiritual path, keep these ideas in mind. When you catch yourself falling into one of these habits, gently remind yourself of what you've learned. Use the practices we've discussed, the compassion pause, the growth journal, the patience pause, to shift your mindset and get back on track. Remember, breaking these habits takes time and practice. Be patient and kind with yourself as you work on it. Every time you notice one of these habits and choose a different response, you're growing spiritually. That awareness itself is a form of progress. Your spiritual journey is a beautiful, lifelong adventure. It's not about reaching a final destination, but about continually expanding your awareness and deepening your connection to yourself, others, and the world around you. Every step you take, every challenge you face, every moment of growth, no matter how small, is valuable and meaningful. As you continue on your path, remember to celebrate your progress, learn from your challenges, and approach your growth with curiosity, compassion, and patience. Trust in your own unique journey, embrace your humanity, and enjoy the process of becoming more fully yourself. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of spiritual growth. I hope these insights help you break free from the habits that might be holding you back and empower you to embrace your spiritual journey more fully. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be, and every moment is an opportunity for growth and transformation. Keep growing, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep being your beautiful, authentic self. Your spiritual journey is a gift. Treasure it, nurture it, and let it unfold in its own perfect way. Here's to your continued growth and the amazing journey ahead.